Hey Bubble family, welcome back to the channel. So yes, you've been waiting for it in today's video. I'm going to be doing a part 1 and a part 2 because there is just so much to talk about in regards to, well, Harry's sit down interview, therapy session, etc. with Gabor Mate. I think that's how you pronounce it. So for those of you who don't know who I am and you are new to this channel, I am a qualified therapist and trained life coach, and I talk about things that are going on in social media or things that are going on in the media with regards to celebrities, and I try and bring a real world perspective to help you understand if there's someone in your life or yourself that you are going through things and you might need some support and guidance in how to navigate all of those things. So if you want to join me in this video and you like it, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed and you don't want to miss future uploads, then please think about subscribing to this channel because it also helps the algorithm. So that's being said, let's dive right in, because if you don't know what to do by now, you should. And if you're new here, grab your drink of choice, whether it be tea, whether it be coffee, whether it be like me. I am drinking my cherries and berries. I'm back to that, bowl of water right now, even though water is good for you and I appreciate that. But sometimes we just like a little bit of something yummy. So I'm back to my cherries and berries. But if you'd like to add a little something, because sometimes somewhere it is 5 o'clock and you want to add a little... No, I've completely got that confused and mixed up. If you want to add a little something to your drink of choice, because as I say, and the flag says behind me, it is 5 o'clock somewhere. Grab your drink and let's dive right in. So I'm having a bit of a moment today. So yes, I do this, which, you know, it's funny how I still get the comments, not many, but I still get, I guess it's new people that don't know me that kind of say, oh, you talk too much beforehand. Well, first and foremost, this is my channel and I do use this to talk about things that are kind of affecting me or things that are just going on in my life. As much as I do talk about the issue at hand, you can feel free to skip this waffly bit. But most of my subscribers enjoy my waffle. So for those of you who do, here it is. I'm having a moment. I've had to borrow some glasses because, you know, as most of you know, my glasses, look what happens. Look what happens. I sat on them. And so, yeah, I did think about coming on camera and just doing that, but I thought that probably, I might create a new look. But yeah, so that happened. So I'm going to have to get some more. So I'm having to borrow some glasses because I have to read some things in today's video, and so I need glasses. So yeah, so I was like, and these don't, I don't like these because they feel a bit too strong for my eyes, which I know isn't ideal, and I don't recommend that. But unfortunately, unless I consistently keep holding these up against my face like an eyeglass, it's not going to work. So I was like, oh, are you kidding me? You know, we all have those days, don't we, where things just go from bad to worse. I mean, all right, to be fair, in the real world problem, this is not really a great big thing, but it just happened to happen. Oh, here we go again. Happens to happen just before I come on camera. So anyway, yes, so Harry's interview with Gabor Mate. When I first heard about this and the fact that he was charging, was it around $30 for people to live stream this? I had such a reaction because I just thought, firstly, who does that? Who, you know, if you want to sit down and say have a chat with somebody about something, that's fair enough. But to then charge people, because I would guess that most of them know, but those two know, that regardless whether you are a fan of theirs or not a fan of theirs, People are going to pay to live stream, and I'm guessing this is why they've done it, because they know that reporters, people that are doing YouTube channels or TikTok or Instagram, they're going to want to view this, to report on it. So is it in some ways clever PR? Because if, you know, I'm guessing they're sitting there and going, well, you know, these people have, you know, people that have bought my book or whatever, you know, they're going to want to look at this, so why not get them to pay for it? So on one hand, I think there was an element of that. I think he purposely charged because he knew reporters and journalists or whatever, you know, whoever is going to, they are going to want to report on this. So he's saying, well, why not charge? But I also think it's deeply unsettling to watch. I mean, and I didn't pay for it, just so you know, because I didn't agree with this whatsoever. So I was certainly not going to do that. So obviously I've gone with some of the clips that I've seen on social media, the media, etc. But I know enough about this to know that this was deeply unprofessional. You know, especially with Gabor Mate. I mean, some of the things that he's come out with are questionable at best. But for him to sit down with somebody and do this so publicly, because in my opinion, and I'm sure most therapists or people in this field will agree with me, this is a deeply personal thing, and it's very hard sometimes to get things out of clients at the best of times without then having one that's so public. And I thought that when he did the with Oprah, and he did all the tapping and so publicly, it made a mockery, I feel, of the industry that I've trained very hard to be in. So I want to talk about, firstly, the fact that, because I'm going to do a part 2 and I'm going to talk about the drugs in part 2. But in this one, I'm going to be talking about the diagnosis, the alleged diagnosis that Gabor Mate tried to diagnose Harry with. And also the fact that Harry just seemed to, and there's nothing wrong with challenging somebody. I mean, you can certainly challenge a therapist, but the way Harry was doing it seemed very as if he was trying to act as if he was a bit more intelligent than what he, to be honest, than what he is. But so in this interview, well, I mean, or session or whatever you want to call it, Gabor Mate basically said that after reading the book and I guess seeing some of the things that he's seen, I diagnose you with was it ADHD or ADD, which is attention deficit disorder or attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. When I read that and saw it, I kind of sat there and was like, huh? And let me read a little bit about this, just for those of you who don't really understand what it is. So I'm reading from a computer screen for people that are wondering why I'm looking to the left. So diagnosis in adults. Diagnosing ADHD in adults is more difficult because there are some disagreement about whether the list of symptoms used to diagnose children and teenagers also applies to adults. In some cases, an adult may be diagnosed with ADHD if they have 5 or more of the symptoms or inattentiveness or 5 or more of hyperactivity and impulsiveness listed in diagnostic criteria for children in ADHD. Now, in my opinion, and I have spoken to many people about this, it is very, very rare or nigh on impossible to create a diagnosis in an adult if there has not been a diagnosis in a child, especially if there are outside factors. And one of them being that they could potentially have a bipolar disorder, and another one being there could be trauma not dealt with, and another one being that there are others, but another one being drug misuse. Just want to leave that one with you there. So then it carries on to say, as part of your assessment, the specialist will ask about your present symptoms. However, under current diagnostic guidelines, a diagnosis of ADHD in adults cannot be confirmed unless your symptoms have been present from childhood. If you find it difficult to remember whether you had problems as a child, your specialist may wish to see your old school records, talk to your parents, teachers, or anyone else who knew you when you were a child. For an adult to be diagnosed with ADHD, their symptoms should also have a moderate effect on different areas of their life, such as underachieving at work or in education, driving dangerously, difficulty making or keeping friends, difficulty in relationships with partners. If your problems are recent and did not occur regularly in the past, you are not considered to have ADHD. This is because it's currently thought that ADHD cannot develop for the first time in adults. So, okay, so let's go back to that list. So underachieving at work or in education. Well, okay, we know that Harry did underachieve as the teenager, and he did underachieve in education. Now, could this be part of this alleged diagnosis? Yes, it could be. Or it could be that he just was lazy. It could be that he actually was doing a lot of drugs around this time. He didn't feel that actually he needed to bother. There are, again, because there is no diagnosis, and it's very difficult to pinpoint when all this started. But not only that, he suffered a major trauma as a child, well, as a 12, nearly 13-year-old. So coming into the most prevalent time of his life, becoming a teenager, he suffers this trauma of losing a mother. He's also in a goldfish bowl. He's also very privileged and feels self-entitled. So all of those factors go into this. So you have to look at not just what the presenting issue is, but what can go on behind the scenes. You would look at those things first, see if they can be rectified. You would do work on that. And if that doesn't then change anything, then it's potentially this could lead towards a diagnosis. So then you have the second one, driving dangerously. Well, there's been no reports of Harry ever driving dangerously, and for the most part, he gets driven around. But when he has driven, he doesn't seem to be driving dangerously, erratically, or anything. And his attention seems to be quite focused on driving. There is no issue there. Difficulty making or keeping friends. Well, I'm going to be honest, before Meghan, he didn't seem to have much of an issue in not keeping friends. His friends seemed to be around him. He seemed to have quite a few friends. Now, okay, he could still have an issue with keeping some friends, but again, you have to look at outside factors. Is this because he just isn't somebody that enjoys keeping friends? He isn't somebody that he's quite spoilt. So if a friend challenges him, he's just like, I don't want to be friends with you anymore. So that, again, there could be outside factors which would create you to not want to keep friends around you. Or it could just be that you're not a very likable person, so people don't want to be around you. So again, you would look at those things before then putting that towards potential diagnosis of ADHD or ADD. The other one is difficulty in relationships with partners. Well, okay, we do know that he's had difficulty in relationships, but he has had relationships. Now, again, this could be something that goes towards a diagnosis as a child or a teenager, but it also could mean that, again, he's spoilt, self-entitled, behaves quite brattish. And so there are outside factors which you would then look at. And if these things can't be changed, you would put that towards a diagnosis. And so if there then becomes 5 or more, then it is highly likely that you have a diagnosis of ADHD or ADD. Now, some of the other factors that are called environmental conditions. Sleep problems. Does the person have sleep problems? So you would then want to obviously assess and make maybe a diary or a journal of your sleep. Some people actually go to a centre where they are monitored through their sleep and what happens. Like, do they get up a lot? Do they sleepwalk? And again, you would also look at outside factors. So this isn't just a simple, which is what this Gabor Mate has in a sense done, is looked at, well, I've read your book, which we know was most of it was a pack of lies. And I've probably seen a few things on social media or the media and in the papers, and I've diagnosed you with ADHD or ADD, whichever one it was, I've forgotten. To me, that was so irresponsible. especially given the fact that so many people who do genuinely struggle find it very hard to get a diagnosis, to get help. And some of the other mental health issues. Anxiety can manifest as restlessness and inability to concentrate, impulsive reactions and hyperactive behaviours. This anxiety can make it extremely difficult to sit still and control fidgeting. Adverse mental health also affects sleep, in turn resulting in the sleep issues mentioned above. These are all symptoms that can resemble ADHD but may be unrelated. You can have depression. So similarly, depression can cause lack of focus, forgetfulness, low motivation, indecisiveness, trouble getting on and completing tasks, lethargy and sluggishness, disorganization and sleep difficulties. Again, these are all similarly related to ADHD, but not necessarily part of the diagnosis. But this is when a professional would look at all of these and eliminate them if needed. Bipolar disorder, which is something that I've spoken about with Harry, whether we believe that he's got some kind of bipolar disorder. Again, can mimic symptoms of ADHD. Compulsive. What is that? I've just made up I just need to put two words together and make a new word. Obsessive compulsive disorder. Attention and concentration problems associated with obsessive compulsive disorder may appear to be ADHD related, but not necessarily part of a diagnosis. Substance misuse. ADHD has been associated with a risk for substance misuse. A person who is misusing drugs and alcohol or alcohol can also have behavioral symptoms that mimic ADHD. These symptoms can include difficulty concentrating, problems with memory, restlessness, irritability, talkativeness, sleep problems, moodiness, and academic or work difficulties. Well, who do we know that has openly and publicly stated that he has misused drink and drugs on a regular basis, quite happily? Harry. So, obviously, we have other things like learning issues and processing problems and medical conditions, obviously, on top of that. So all of these things you would take into account when you are making a diagnosis. You would spend time with this particular client. You would then assess everything. Every aspect of their life would be looked into to see whether this is a diagnosis, that it's a real diagnosis. And one of the first things, especially as a therapist, you would want to know is if there is drug or alcohol misuse. Because one of the things I know is if you are dealing with a client and they openly say, I am taking marijuana consistently, or I'm drinking consistently, you have to take that into account because it can change how you work with somebody. Especially given the fact that, especially with marijuana or some other drugs, they can mask a lot of symptoms, or they can almost create you to feel like they're not that big of a deal. And it's almost like putting a plaster on an open wound. At some point, you've got to take that plaster off. And especially if you're using marijuana or some drugs to create that either numbed out state, this can create you to feel that the problems are not really that bad, but actually they are. You're just numbing them. And Harry has openly said that he's been doing drugs since a very young age. So this is what I've said before, that I absolutely believe that he's got arrested development. And what's interesting is that Gabor Mate didn't even pick up on this. He also then said that he had PTSD, which then Harry then corrected and said it's PTSI. So PTSD is obviously post-stress traumatic disorder. And PTSI is post-traumatic stress injury. So a disorder, so this is now a new way of almost like changing something, which in a way it kind of means the same thing. But apparently some people didn't like the word disorder. They felt that it created them to be, it was quite a negative word, and it's something that is associated with the military, like people that have been in, in the army or the navy or wherever it is, they've been there, they've suffered like war injuries or things like that. So it's almost as if, they don't, if you're in that kind of like, if you're in the police or you're in the fight, you've seen something very traumatic, then this creates PTSD. And this can happen, but this can happen with anyone. You can, if you've suffered a severe trauma, you can have PTSD. Well, now they've changed it to PTSI, which is post-stress traumatic injury, and this is to do with your brain having an injury, which, okay, yes, relatively, that is correct. However, what's interesting was that Harry corrected him, because this hasn't been run through all the tests, and it's now officially called PTSI. This is something that wellness or wherever have just decided to change the name to make people feel a bit better. So it's not an actual medical term. PTSD is a medical term, but PTSI isn't. But Harry just decides to go, actually, it's PTSI. So do I think that Harry has PTSI? Possibly, yes. At the end of the day, he's suffered the loss, quite a traumatic loss, of losing his mother. But also, let's not forget, this does not mean that you condone a behaviour. William suffered the loss of his mother, and I would say, in some ways, it was far worse for William, because William was 15 and he was also his mother's emotional carer, and he has that kind of, his personality is rescuer, carer, so he would automatically feel that huge loss, and then possibly then take on board some guilt that he would feel in regards to, could he have picked up on the signs, could he have done something? And then not only that, he would then start worrying about his father, worrying about Harry, whereas Harry, being nearly 13, just worries about Harry, which, to be fair, a lot of young people would do that. But Harry comes across as quite a self-absorbed, selfish personality. So he wouldn't automatically go into being rescuer or carer for anyone else in his family. He would just go quite probably into himself, and then he would act out, which is Harry's type of personality. He acts out. If something's bothering him, he acts out. Whereas I would see that William is probably quite introverted, and he would take things on board and worry. So he's a worrier. So and when we talk about all of this, these people that are around Harry, and even Harry himself, doesn't give a crap about how his actions affect other people. Even in what he's doing now, it's very self-absorbed and very selfish behaviour. Now, as a therapist, I am all for people looking out for themselves. I think it is very important to be able to look at yourself and want to work on yourself. And sometimes it's okay to say no. In fact, I would say it's important sometimes to have self-care and say no, especially if it's something that could be quite damaging. But what we don't teach you is to enable your behaviour, to find ways for you to make excuses. Because what will happen now is, now Gabor Mate has given this supposed diagnosis, Harry will then possibly then use that as an excuse for behaviour. It's, well, I'm doing that because I've got ADHD, or I'm doing that because I've got ADD, I've been diagnosed. You cannot diagnose somebody just by spending that little bit of time with them and then reading a book or just looking at stuff that's been on the media. You would need to spend time with that person in different capacities to see how they work. Now, don't get me wrong, when I've spoken on here and I've said that I do believe that Meghan is narcissistic, you can absolutely say, I believe you have that, as I'm talking about Meghan. But you would never sit in a session with somebody and put something in their field of awareness, something that wasn't there before. I have had clients come to me and say, do you think that I might be autistic, or do you think I might have something? And I've said, okay, well, we can look at that. we can definitely explore that. And so we spend time exploring why they feel that they have this. Is there a reason behind it? Is it something that they feel that they are trying to understand their own behavior, and so they're just plucking things in a way out of thin air to try and understand but their behavior? It could be that there might be something there, but you would certainly spend time looking at, but it would have to come from the client. How unprofessional it was for Gabor Mate to actually put that in Harry's field of awareness and say, I'm diagnosing you with this. I have never heard of something so terribly unprofessional in my life. You never ever, because you don't know what damage that can cause somebody. You know, that's like me sitting down with somebody and saying, you know, them telling me things, and I turn around and go, your parents were toxic, your parents were damaging to you, or actually, you know, you've been abused, when it's not there. Because what you can do then is you can create so much more trauma for somebody, and that's not our job. Now, don't get me wrong, if a client comes to you and says, I believe I've been abused, again, we would then explore that with the client. You do not ever suggest that somebody has got some, well, that not in the way I believe a therapist should work. Now, okay, of course, there are probably therapists out there that would, unless you are trained in that field, so to speak, and that's what you're specifically going there for. Like if you're going to somebody who specializes in ADHD and you're kind of saying, right, okay, I need a diagnosis. That's different. But that's not what was happening in this interview. It was a sit down, whatever it was, and something to me that should be deeply personal, because not only that, you don't know what's going to come out. Harry could have broken down. And this is all playing out publicly. Now, whether it was a live session is debatable. Some people have said they don't believe it was, but I don't know if I feel that's even relevant or important. I think what's important is that you have got a supposed professional sitting down, interviewing or giving some kind of weird therapy session with somebody who, and giving him information that wasn't there before. And not only that, not really recognizing that this man is a very, very troubled, damaged individual that needs help. And so I feel that in some ways there are professionals out there that are misleading him, or and Harry is so susceptible, even though he tries to act like he thinks he knows what he's talking about or what he's doing, he doesn't. He's clearly so moldable, susceptible, that he's listening to the wrong people, which is very deeply concerning. And he's getting this wrong kind of advice. And again, like I say, he's the type of personality that will now kind of say, you know, like he says at one point, you know, I will, you know, should I look into that? You know, he could look into that, and he will then look at some of the things that he does. And rather than thinking that this could potentially be to do with his drug use, he will kind of go, oh yeah, I do that, and that. Oh, okay, I've got that then. And then that will excuse, in his mind, that will excuse his behavior. Well, I do that because of this. To me, this could not have been more unprofessional if it tried. I don't know what the purpose was of this, whether it is, again, to create Harry to become more of a victim. Because at this point, people are so sick and tired of hearing about him, sick and tired of him sitting down for interviews. And of course, this is probably going to push more sales for his book. Of course, that's, you know, and maybe even I don't know, has Gabor got a book coming out? But I definitely think this is Harry's way of just getting more publicity out there. But at this point in time, it's creating him to look deeply unhinged, deeply unwell. And I don't know whether we've got Meghan. I mean, obviously, this is something we don't know. We can guess and think maybe. But is she behind the scenes going, yeah, this is a really great idea. You go for it, Harry. You go for it. He's certainly got people behind him telling him this is a good idea. And it's really not. It is really, really not. What I would suggest, Harry, and not that I think for 1 second he listens to my videos, is stop. Just stop doing everything so publicly. Go away. Go and speak to somebody professionally, somebody that actually isn't interested in you as being a prince, somebody that actually wants to help you and not get any notoriety for it. Go do this privately, not publicly, and go and sort yourself out. Because what I see right now is somebody that is just, in a sense, trying to act like he's got everything together, trying to act like he's super, super happy. But in my opinion, a happy person, an emotionally together person or healthy person does not behave this way. And shame on these specialists who are capitalizing and trying to get money out of someone who is clearly unhinged. Now, I don't like Harry's behavior. I don't condone it in any shape or form, but I can see a very damaged individual, someone who needs help. And these people are taking full advantage of who he is. And whether Harry can see it or he doesn't care, I don't know. That's up to him. But that's what I can see. And it's deeply unprofessional. And it puts therapists like myself in a bad light, because people possibly will think that, well, are all therapists like this? No, we're not. I would never in a million years behave the way this Gabor Mate has behaved. I would never treat a client this way. And I think I'm sad that in a way that Harry has fallen so far that he just can't see it, or maybe he doesn't want to see it. Do I think he has some issues? Absolutely. I think you've only got to have a pair of eyes, to see that he's got issues coming out of the wazoo. But these are things that should be dealt with privately. I don't know who is advising him, and I don't believe it's just Meghan. In fact, like I said to you, because I don't even believe they're together. I think they get together periodically. I think they have probably commitments they've got to do, but they are acting as though they are together right now. But I don't believe they're together, as in like emotionally. And the fact that this need to consistently rave about how amazing she is. Nothing adds up. Nothing adds up. And I think this really just boils down to this man is just very mentally unstable, desperately is in need of the right help, to have the right people around him, which I believe he did when he was with his family. I think this man is also very hurt, even though he's creating the same behavior that he did as a child. When you're hurt, you act out, and he's acting out. This is this type of behavior, but he's just doing it as an adult, and it's not cute or funny anymore. It can't be excused, or, oh, that's little old Harry. Bless him. He's nearly a 40-year-old man. There are no excuses now. You take responsibility for your actions. And that is one of the things a therapist would be looking at. What is your responsibility? And that is something, and like I always say, I give it the real world spin and tell you look at your own behavior. So if you have somebody in your family that's behaving the way that Harry's behaving, or Meghan, look at your part in it. And it could simply be that you're engaging with them, or you're enabling them, or if you're doing those things, stop. Because you cannot change how somebody else behaves, but what you can do is look at yourself and change how you react to it or you behave. So if you're reacting to someone's negative behavior, step back. Stop reacting to it, because a lot of the time that's what they want. So just stop. Take a moment. And I know sometimes it's not always that easy, especially if there is anger there. But remember, anger is a secondary emotion. So if you're feeling angry, there is an underlying issue that why you're feeling angry. It could be, are you scared? Are you hurt? There's always a primary emotion, and then anger kind of comes in above that. So always look at that. If you have somebody that behaves like Harry, and you can get them the help that they might need, then at least, try to do that. But remember, if the person doesn't want to go to therapy, if they don't want to be part of that, they won't. They will be resistant to therapy. They have to want to change. And sometimes you just can't change somebody. As much as you might want to try, you can't. So I hope that you got something from this video. I know it's a little bit longer than what I normally do, and I appreciate that. So I am going to, just bear with me, people. Right, because I've just got to minimize that. So I'm going to read out some more members. I am so sorry that I am not keeping on top of this. I really do apologize. I feel like I want to give an excuse, and it just simply is that when I go to do it, and like I say, and I know that I talk about the menopause a lot, but I am going through it right now, and I think there's many of you who have gone through it or are about to go through it, whatever it is. The brain fog thing is crazy. The memory loss is crazy. Like, I can literally be doing what I'm doing now, and then I'll think to myself, right, I must do the members at the end. By the time I get to the end of the video, I've forgotten. But as I'm remembering now, I'm going to do the members. So there is Sian Rockcliffe. So thank you for joining. P.A. Christian Aries, I think. Irene Bradshaw, Beth Mo MacGyver, and I'm really sorry if I say some of these names wrong, because obviously these are YouTube handles and might not necessarily be your name, so some of them can be a bit strange and I might not pronounce them right. Lulu's back in town, Celeste Warren, Josephine Tran, Naomi Hollingsworth, Julie G, Roxanne Legg, Patricia Korsock, or Korok, I'm not sure about that one. Tea Time with Mama, Daydreams or D-Dreams. I think that's meant to be daydreams, but I think it's spelled D-I-D-R-E-A-M. And I will put your names will go up at the end. I will put them up on the member board, and then at each video you will see them at the beginning of every video. Your names will be up there. So then we have Ms. April, Angela, Catherine Carroll, Kimberly Brown, love you people, Naomi Stubbs, Mary K. Higgins, Elizabeth Gallagher, oh, you're really making me work, Schrodinger's Duchess, and Sandra Westbrook. So if you don't see your name up there, because I don't know why, but when I do the members, some of them are saying joined, some are saying rejoined, and some of them are like when they've joined seem to be a bit, it's all over the place. Like I've got ones that say 4 months ago, one that say 18 days ago. So it's all a bit strange. So if I have not, go on the member board. If your name is not up there, please contact me. If I've spelt your name wrong, please contact me. I will rectify that, and I will also then read your name out in the next video. So I do apologize if I have not read your name out, or I do apologize if your name has not gone on the board. I will put you on there, but just let me know in the comments below whether or not you see your name or you don't see your name. Just, yeah, let me know. So remember, as a member, you will get when I put on the community page, there are things that I just do for members only. Like sometimes when I do things, I ask if you have any questions that you would like me to read out. I try and respond to your messages first, though albeit that occasionally I do miss you, so I do apologize for that, but I do try to at least answer member questions first or comments first. And if you have my email address, you can contact me and you will get a 1 hour free phone call with me if you so choose. You don't have to take me up on that. Not everybody has, but it is there for you as a member. You get to have that with me personally, where you can talk to me about whatever you like. It could be therapy related, or it could be Harry and Meghan related, or it could just be about anything in general. So remember that you have that option, but you must email me and put in the reference bar member phone call, and that way then I can see it and I will respond to it. So if you like this video, please give it a big old thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to my channel and you would like to never miss future uploads, then please think about subscribing and clicking that button. If you would like to join up as a member, you can. The button is right by the subscribe button. It is $2.99 a month, I believe, and that money goes towards me helping people outside of the channel who struggle financially get support, whether it be via email, they can speak to me over the phone or video chat, and I have sessions with them to get them through whatever they're going through because they can't afford a therapist. So it's my aim to try and help as many people as possible. At the moment, I have a waiting list, so I do appreciate that. So if you're not in immediate need, please let me know, but I will still put you on that list. But if it's just something you want, like I say, I can give you an email or I can give you a phone call. It might not be that you don't necessarily want full-on sessions, but you know that I help in any way I can. You can also be a Patreon, which some people join as a Patreon, which you then are also paying that forward. You also get that option to have that free phone call with me or video chat if you so choose. What else? You can buy my bubble merchandise if you would like to send me something in the PO box. I've just recently received a lovely book from somebody, Craig, and I am going to read this book. And when I am going to obviously put it up on here and give you my views on this book. And then I'm also going to help this person because they've just written it and it's on Amazon. So I'm going to give you the link below. And so you can go and order this book. It's I think it looks like a murder book, a murder mystery type book. But anyway, I will do that over the weekend, read it, and then give you my verdict next week. Anything else? I think that's it. So thank you to everybody who has been supporting my son's channel. You are amazing. I think the last time I checked, he is now over 1,000 subscribers. So thank you so much. But now we're trying to get his views. He needs 4,000 hours views to then start earning money on YouTube. So if you can do, even if it's something, please go in and watch his videos just to help him get those views up, because it takes a long time to get this going. And obviously I'm asking for your help. So even if you can just watch one, or or stick them on in the background, put them on mute, whatever it is, please, help me help my son. So thank you so much to all of you. You are amazing. I love you all. I really, really do. And I know that some people go, oh, how can you love people you don't know? I can, because I can appreciate what you do for me. I can appreciate the support you give me, and I can love you for that. So thank you. So as always, like I always say, I love you, I appreciate you, but most of all, I respect you. Mwah.